So as the old is leaving, as the old is dying, what you are feeling is not so much the birthing pains of the new earth yet. What you are feeling now is the dying of the old earth. And so death, that sense of death, that sense of loss, that sense of the most profound transformation that we know, and the most profound loss that we know, which is what we call death, which is leaving the body. And there is a psychological attachment, there is a psychological fear that is permeating the ethers right now. Even though your body is perfectly fine, you feel this. It is a theme, it is a sensation, it is a fragrance, it is a vibration. Yes, you shall give it movement. You shall give it movement. And you find yourself challenged to not get drawn into it. Actually, you find yourself completely drawn into it, even though you're not buying into the story, but you are feeling the vibrations of it very much so. Even though you yourself are not afraid of losing anyone dear at this moment in time. Or even losing your own body at all. And yet at the same time, this is very prominent, this sensation, because it is a vibration that is being exuded into the grids from many in the collective right now. As the vibration has been of the planet has been rising, as bit for bit, bit by bit, there have been more and more factors that have been holding it down, depressing it, holding it down in vibration, have been removed from, let's say, the powers of light, the power of light, through the hearts of beings, of souls. Through the heart of Gaia herself as well. She's going through a great healing, a great purge, a great transformation. Herself and everyone individually on the planet as well. So it feels like death. As your old self is dying. As your old way of being, your old habits, your old system is crumbling. And you cannot see the new yet. You're not established in the new yet. And so this also creates a lot of fear. You're in a place that is smack in the middle of it. Smack in the middle of a lot of fear vibrations. Because you can handle it. It may not seem so. And it's not about handling it anyways. It's about surrendering to it. And you know that. It's about opening up to that fear. Opening up to that cold draft. That feeling of disconnect. That feeling of losing something dear. No, you don't see yourself losing anything dear. It's that feeling, it's that sensation that almost makes you feel nauseous, and at times it does make you feel nauseous. And yes, it is very intense at the moment. Everyone is implied. Everyone is in the same boat. Even though everyone has a different experience. But this is the main theme. So how can you come back into inner peace? And it's not a how, this is not a question, we're doing it right now. This is the process. This is the process we're doing right now. And how can we transform these fears? First, we must see what is truly happening. We really must get what is truly happening. It is a getting well. And oftentimes we have to throw up to get well. We have to purge. Oftentimes we have to go through an illness or a sickness to get well. As you can remember how well you feel after you've gone through fever, for example. You feel like you're newborn and you've shed many skins, because indeed that is what fever does. That fire in the blood, it changes the DNA. It rearranges it. It recalibrates it. It's a very powerful healing and initiation to have fever. For example, it is a miniature death, fever is. And interesting enough, that this fear virus that is going around it's one of the symptoms that comes with it is fever. And actually what fever does also is it burns ego. It burns fear. It burns lower vibrations. It burns old structures that no longer serve. And again, you see the movements. You see the movements. They want to be expressed through your body. That energy wants to move. That fear energy wants to move. But before we go into the movements, there is more to be tuned into. There is more to be tuned into. So we want you to recognize all the judgments that you've had towards those people that aren't as informed as you are and that are going into fear and whose behavior is coming from a lot of fear. Yes, and it is that judgment that you have, that you've expressed, coming from that old small self that you're so familiar with, and when you, especially when you're with people who know you as that self, it comes out more and more. It matters not whether you don't have that fear that they have. What matters is the vibration that you hold within yourself in the meeting of it. What matters is how much can you stand in your own middle, because they're not in their own middle, otherwise they wouldn't be in such fear. Yes, so now the compassion is coming in, because yes, there are a lot of people who still are completely in the inverted matrix. They don't know anything about it. They just believe in everything the government says and so forth and so forth. What we've noticed within you, however, is a judgment there that they haven't, even within your family, that they're in this small box, afraid of something that in your mind there's nothing to be afraid of. And believing the whole twisting of the story, and let's say that the agenda, yes, the agenda, believing, let's just say, the inverted matrix agenda. Yes, okay, that's a big one, and it goes straight into the heart. Yes, it goes straight into the heart, because it does cause a divide there. and judgment is always a divide. Oh, and even if it's like cool, and even if it's totally cool, and you have your family members and your friends who are with you, and you know, it doesn't matter whether your judgment in that sense is justified or not. It remains that vibration of any kind of judgment will cause a severance from your soul, a distance to your soul, to yourself, within yourself. And that distance is not real, it's illusion, but it is perceived by you, and that is a part of why you feel this unpleasant draft, this cold draft, this disconnect within you. You come home and it feels like it's been empty for weeks. It's like you're not. It's the representation, because you're not completely inhabiting your body when you are feeling these fear vibrations. And even though you can say, yes, it is not your fear, so why are you feeling it so strong when you have nothing to be afraid of? When you are not afraid of what, what's going on right now. But you're picking up on it. And the only thing that will dissolve this fear is the opening of your heart. Compassion. Compassion for where everyone is at. And these are just empty words to you right now. As you hear this dog in fear, you totally have compassion for it. You hold space for its fear. The dog cannot help it, and neither can you, and neither can anybody else. That is your job. That is your work. Doesn't matter what anyone believes. That doesn't make them a bad person, what they believe. Even hoarding toilet paper and buying, all the shelves empty of flour and whatnot doesn't make them a bad person. What matters is your vibration with everything that comes your way. What matters is, where are you closing your heart? And you know where you are closing your heart is where you are judging. What you are meeting. We're not talking about that there is no right and wrong. Of course there is right and wrong. There are those things that your mind will bring to you, those stories that your mind will bring to you that don't feel good. Those are not the stories to latch on to and then be compassionate for wrongdoing. That is what the mind will twist itself into. To simply keep the egoic mind alive. To stay in the inversion, because that's all it knows. And this that you are suffering from is the egoic mind alone, coming on very strong right now. As it is being threatened. As it is coming undone. So rather than being in the story of what someone says, what someone believes, and their behavior, then accordingly, stay in your heart. Stay in your heart. And simply go through the world now, feeling from your heart, focused in that feeling in your heart. So that the story, what you think about someone else, is simply another story, is the same story as what they are thinking or what you think that they're thinking. Or the same story as how they behaved and whatnot and whatnot. And that keeps the ball of the ego bouncing back and forth, back and forth. See which thoughts are helpful to express, and which thoughts are just simply filling the space with more judgment. Which is, you are hurting yourself. You are hurting yourself. And of course, this is not criticism. This is not a falling short whatsoever. This is a becoming aware of these ingrained habits of the mind that has a severe influence on your well-being and how open your heart is. And this is the only way that you can transform this situation, because you've already detected that in actuality what is happening is that this shift in coming out of the habitual ways of being, now with this going on, with this situation going on, with the virus, or the story of symptoms. Mostly it is really not even the virus itself. What is it doing? It is what everyone believes about it. What that story is doing with everyone. And what the governmental implications are doing with everyone. The governmental implications being something that we are called to abide by. Something we have no control over. We have control over how we abide. But the law, how it changes, we have no control over that. So to surrender to that which we have no control over, whether we like it or not, matters not. So if it matters not, completely go into surrender of it. Go with that you cannot change. It is the resistance here that is painful. That gives you carpet burn everywhere. So what we really want you to do now is to once again feel into the judgment that you've had. Because that's a very deep layer about it. The judgment of those that perhaps, let's just say, remain asleep to the inverted matrix. Causing this divide in your heart. Between yourself, within yourself, and between you and the immediacy of the moment. Your experience is thereby lowered in vibration. It is in that division that fear creeps in. That fear within the atmosphere, within the climate, within the collective, has its docking station. And then you're connected to this, like this cloud, this huge wave of fear, and you feel it. And it changes your whole experience and your perception, even though you know what is happening is a good thing. But if your perception isn't there anymore, you're not having a pleasant experience at all, and you're not contributing to the transformation of it, but to the suffering of it. So what you're also feeling is a yearning for connection. And that connection can only be made within yourself. And then you feel it with the world and with others. Even without words, it's just there. And then you can settle in yourself. And then you can come back to enjoying the moment as it is. Resting in yourself and resting in the moment as it is. And you know that this connection can only be made in the heart. So the huge, huge, huge step here is to truly allow everyone to be where they're at. Surrender to it. Including yourself. That's what creates that space for the ego to not be able to bounce back and forth. It will still do it for a while, but the more you can hold that allowing in that space of it, so you have compassion for everyone where they are at, including yourself. So you have compassion for including the judgment that arises within you. But when you have that compassion for the judgment that arises within you from the habitual mind, you are no longer judging. And you no longer feel that knee-jerk reaction and that need to express that judgment, because it is not you. It just simply arises as a thought, and perhaps then also as a sensation, as a feeling. I know what that is. You know? There's another one. There's another one. And you just simply hold it as you stay focused, feeling wise in your heart. And that is the greatest thing you could ever do for yourself and for anyone, especially now in this situation. Then you become this transformer, the catalyst, without even saying a word. You do this with all your fears. That's what the compassion is for. Feeling your fears. When you feel the fears of others, you are still feeling your fears, because you would not feel them unless there would be some fear inside of you where they could, as a matching vibration, connect into you. So you are not that different after all. And you stay with yourself and take care of your vibration. Feel and stay conscious. That is how you stay connected consciously, because you can never lose us. You can never lose the connection to all that is, to life, to the divine, to your soul, to us, to the whole collective of light. The more it hurts, the more fear there is, the more there is for you to open up and surrender, to open your heart and feel it. Let it devour you. Let it devour you. Let it have you completely. This is a time of global awakening. This is a time of that pinnacle point of where that shift is truly beginning to hit the fan. You know, it's happening. You're in the middle of it. All of you, every single one on the planet is in the middle of this shift. It is so monumental you haven't even begun to grasp. And all that you are losing, that feeling of loss, that feeling of death, it's a cleanse. It's a cleanse. Let it go. It's all that density, that burden, those shackles, the old exploitative, undermining, debilitating, limiting ways of going about things. And before one system can ascend and become a higher version of itself, the old system has to collapse. And in that collapsing of the old system before the new system is established, before you are knowing yourself and having that, you know, your new framework, there is a phase of chaos, and that's the phase that you're in right now. So that's why it is so utmost important to let go of the rails and let this river that has become a white water river take you. Even when that river feels like fear, especially then, you need to surrender, especially then. trust. Trust in who you are. Trust in what you are. It is coming to get you. It is coming to bring you back home. Every single little thing happening to you that you deem as, oh, this is bad, this shouldn't be happening. That is what's causing you nausea. That is what's causing you headache. That is what's causing you dizziness. That is what is making you so exhausted, is the holding on to the old ways, the old self, the old structures, is not making enough space within yourself because you're not trusting enough. This is not criticism one bit. No, this is simply resonance. This is pointing. This is guidance. This is remembering. This is tuning you in to this field of what is going on, what is happening. So recognition can happen. Evermore, 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 evermore. At the moment, what you are so overwhelmed with, what you're feeling, is that dying sensation of the old, and the fear of the old dying, coming from all the old and all those consciousnesses that are experiencing this death, that are not aware of this new birth, this new beginning, that is a completely new earth. That's why it's called New Earth. It will be unrecognizable. It is a completely different way of being that is being birthed, and it is transforming into a whole different way of living with each other, of a new system. And of course, this will be gradual, 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 in phases, and at the same time it will be it will be exponential. It will be exponential, picking up momentum and so forth. And all the areas of life are affected. So that is why, even though you've already caught drifts of this, like excitement as well, this excitement of the new coming in, which is absolutely beautiful, like yesterday when you were on your walk in that clear sky, that clear blue sky, and the light was clear. And the atmosphere was, it's like blossoming. It's like, you could taste that awakening that was in the air. And today is the opposite. So it's going to shift back and forth like that. It's going to oscillate in and out of you tasting the new and then tasting the death again of the old and the fear connected to that. So we're going to we're going to express and show you these movements and sounds and how to transform the fear energies when you come back home, when you are in a place of where you feel safe and you feel free to express them, the sounds and the movements. Yes, so it is important also right now for you to actually be alone. As you can see, technology is abiding to, always is. It's abiding to, it's not technology abiding, it is life. It is life that is abiding to your soul now. As your soul is coming in more, it's getting stronger, your connection to your soul is getting stronger, you can see that life is supporting your soul now. Because as the egoic structures, the old inverted matrix system, which was the expression on the outside collectively, globally, was that egoic mind, was the inverted matrix system. Based in fear, based in survival, based in division, creating a lot of suffering. And yes, there is that egoic mind part that is not inverted, yet it is still playing within duality. That will last a bit longer because it creates less suffering, and it still has some meaning, it still has some purpose, but that will also, in time, that will also go. On your way to unity consciousness, it has to. And then it gives way to a different kind of mind that allows for play. But it doesn't have the same docking stations, it doesn't have the inversion. It is a whole new play. Because this old way of playing has been played out completely. You know, Earth is through. Is through. So she cannot support that framework anymore. Because she's she has awakened. And so it's unraveling in all of us. So every time you feel this ill feeling, remember this. Remember this. And simply come to sit and feel into your heart. Remember that. Every time you feel bad about something happening, every time you feel that something is drawing you down in vibration, every time a judgment arises, it doesn't matter whether that judgment is justified. It doesn't matter whether that person has done something wrong, or this law is wrong, or this company has a really unfair way of doing business, and so forth. It doesn't matter. It is not anything you have power over. You know what is right and what is wrong, but it's happening for a reason. No need to judge, because you're only hurting yourself. You're only hurting yourself. Simply see the story. The emotion is yours. That is how you build new earth, with your vibration. That is how you build it within, and how you start to feel it within. And then how you tune in to the degree that you are tuning in within. You tune into everywhere where you can see it on the outside. For example, you've been seeing it in the birds. You've been seeing it in the sky. You've been seeing it in the sun, in the sunlight. You've been seeing it in the children. And also sometimes in the people. You've been seeing it in gardens. And in the little interactions that you have with people. And you want to fill your canvas with that. You want to tune into that more and more and more. Get that momentum going. And as you see the old structures having a hold of you, you also see the movements, how you're moving out of them. And as you're doing the movements, and as you are allowing the sounds to come through, it is like threading your way out of the old into the new. It is building the new. It is strengthening the new. It is tuning into the new earth. It is tuning into your soul that is already there. It is already at that higher vibration. It is already beyond the egoic mind. It is your consciousness. It is your heart. Your truth. And your truth and your heart and your love will bring up everything unlike itself. It'll bring up all the lies, all the illusion, all the pain, all the judgment, all that vibration that you hold inside still unconsciously, that you have gathered throughout your lifetime, and that has woven itself into your system. So as you find yourself being judgmental, be the space for it. Be the space for it. Allow this to happen. What is happening right now is absolutely monumental, and this is just the beginning. Because if you cannot hold space for all that negativity inside of yourself, you cannot hold space for your love either. And then you're pushing it down, you're not allowing it. And you're suffering, and it's just going to get worse and worse and fester, and you're going to have a hell of an experience. You know, a hellish experience. And you're really going to suffer, and also your body is going to suffer. Your immune system is going to go down, and yeah. You'll get through either way. You'll get through either way, you know? You're already there, of course, but it's about the experience of it. It's about the embodiment of it, the living of it. Yeah, we know that. So you are your most powerful medicine. It's right there in your heart. It's you. You are the panaceum for all your ailments. Even the physical ones. Even all the viruses you have. It is the holding space and the compassion for your fear, for your judgment, and for the fears and judgments of others, and all the behavior that comes from it. All the behavior that comes from it. And this will actually take you out of the position of being a doormat. It's only the mind that says, well, you know, I'm not going to be a doormat. No, of course not. You won't even get into the position of being put in, you know, used as a doormat when you are the space for this, when you can allow yourself to have these feelings, sensations, and even thoughts, but you are the allower. You're not judging yourself for judging. You're not the one judging. It is judging happening then. And you will see when you can hold that space, allowing how quickly it can dissolve. That's how you can allow it to dissolve, because that's all that's happening. But if you are judging your judgment, it will keep going. Then you are in that vicious cycle, and it will keep going. Of course, as you are in that vicious cycle, it is bringing up this consciousness as well. Of course, it is your suffering that is bringing up the consciousness, that is bringing up more and more the exhaustion, and with the exhaustion, the inevitable surrender. And it is that surrender to all those mechanisms that are being purged, that are happening, that are making their way through you, that will allow them to dissolve, to clear. Leaving you bit by bit more liberated from them. And so it is important for you right now, as you have no phone, you have no internet, so you have no ways of communicating at the moment other than in the flesh. And this is very important, so that you always come back to yourself, where you draw yourself out of the narrative, out of the mind, out of the story of it all, and all the different angles to the story that you can take and comment and point out and judge. It's very exhausting. And that is also why you are so exhausted, why you are feeling the way you are feeling. And being attracted to the foods that you're being attracted to, which are, it's a self-perpetuating cycle. And it can go into downwards, or it can go upwards. It can be the downward spiral or the upward spiral. But the way into the upward spiral is not positive thinking. Breath will bring you back in. Breath will always bring you back into this allowing, this simply being, this space for it, remembering that that's who you are. You are the space. You're not your judgments. You're not what you say, and neither is anyone else. It's reeling your mind back in from all that story, all that projection, and all that what you think of others. So, all that judgment. It's reeling it back in, bringing you always back into your space where you are alone, where you cannot communicate with anyone, and where you have no distraction. You have no internet, you have no distraction. And then on top of it, this whole situation going on. where, yeah, there's sort of a confinement to reel back in all the distractions, going out and about and being together and doing stuff. It's like, bring it back in, bring it back inside. So yeah, there's that whole story of, oh my God, how many layers, how many angles does it have? And it could keep you busy forever. But when you're getting more and more exhausted, you're just going to have to sleep. You're just going to have to, and you're going to be suffering like a dog if you don't surrender. So my love, we want to leave. We're never going to leave you, but we're going to leave the recording at this. We're going to stop the recording now, but we're going to keep going. We're going to keep going. We're right here. We're right here with you. And we're right here with everyone as we say this. We are right here with everyone. It's right there. In your heart. So even though you feel that fear still, even when you're feeling into your heart, you're feeling fear, yes. Now you know. Now you know what it is. Now you know what it's there for. Now you know how it's all good. It's okay. Be the space for it. And it will pass. And behind it, you can even sense a tiny little bit of excitement about what's going on. Because that's what's waiting for you. That's what's waiting for you. We love you so much. We have been waiting for this for a very, very long time. It's all inside. It's all inside of you. Never mind where the money is coming from for your next meal. Surrender into your heart, and that's where the guidance is, and that's how all is falling into place. The suffering is not coming from having to perhaps stay at home when you would rather go outside. Or feeling that you have to, feeling confined. The suffering is not in perhaps not having everything to eat or to consume, in whichever way. The suffering is not in those discomforts. The suffering is not in not being able to communicate with others. The suffering is being disconnected from your heart, from yourself. That's the only suffering there is. Unless you have physical pain and you don't have any painkillers, you don't have any way to get out of physical pain, that is pain. It is a form of suffering, yes. But the actual suffering is happening in the mind, where you are not connected in your heart with yourself and with all that is. Because as you are in that connection, and if you were in physical pain, you would call that pain. That would be terrible pain. But other than that, the suffering is from being disconnected from yourself and your heart, from your soul. And with that, from all that you are, from life itself. That is the suffering. And the dream is becoming very displeasant, uncomfortable. As it is pushing you back toward the source of your suffering, toward the quenching of your suffering, which is right behind the source of your suffering, which is the divide within your heart. And that divide is coming from being all in the story, being all identified out there in the story, instead of right here in this now, in this here, in this being, in this beingness, in this real, only realness there is. Not in the mind, in the story, in this beingness. That's all there is, that's all that matters. Everything comes, everything that matters, everything that brings about well-being comes from this, comes from here, comes from you as you truly are, who you truly are, this life that you truly are. The story has to get too complex, too complicated, too unpleasant to be in. Your mind has to get exhausted being someone in this story. To come back to this truth. And then creation flows out from a whole new way of being. And you will have a whole new experience of yourself and of life. And it is almost like you want to keep this camera rolling, as if it were your connection, as if it would keep that connection alive. And you don't have to know why that is right now. There's so much to it. It's okay. Because it's now you're going into your mind and trying to figure that one out. But you know that we're always here. We always have been. But you're more open to us now than you've ever been before in this life. Since you have become conscious of your soul. Conscious of your intuition, conscious of your guidance. What you're doing right now is also so much more. It's you're a catalyst. It's so much more than, it's so beyond just yourself. It entails, it's waves. It entails or touches so many more lives than simply your own. Of course, there's only one life, but so many more forms of life. Yes. So many more forms of life. I don't know if I'm going to share this video, but if I do, I feel this namaste. I feel it in my heart. The namaste. I feel I'm not alone. I'm feeling the sharing, the touching, the sharing actually. On the inner realms. So that, in the namaste, I'm sending love through my heart to all that are connected here, into this heart. Yeah.